Okay, now we're downstairs. Now we're downstairs. I have a lot of work I have to do down here.
Are not new.
Gotta get rid of these mice, you know?
This is a challenge that has gone on for a very
This shit
long
away.
period of time.
Gotta get on with the kids. You know,
I think it's worth noting.
there's a little spangle thing here, eh? Another one
Something
over
I
here,
find
right?
quite interesting about the BCTF. As I said, I've worked with a lot of teachers as part of the trust.
I know, we don't want to throw that away, right?
Their work is incredible.
We're gonna
but
use
I
it.
do kind of wonder
Let's see what we can do
about
here.
the BCTF and what their motives
It's not
are.
gonna work.
There's a great book called Worlds Apart, which talks about the history of the education system over 150 years. And it came to a conclusion, and as part of its text, that in the late 1960s and into the early 70s, the BCTF has decided they wanted to become more political. And so they broke an agreement that had been long-standing and became very political, and ultimately are credited towards the downfall of the government of that day. But since that time, I find it quite interesting when you look at, for example, Ken Nowakowski, who was the BCTF communications director and former president, was a federal NDP candidate in 1972, a provincial NDP candidate in 1986, managed Glenn Clark's leadership campaign in 1996. Interesting. The BCTF executive director and former president, Elise McMurphy, provincial NDP candidate in 1986. Former BCTF president, Alice McQuaid. Mr. Clark's appointee as co-chair of the BC Utility Panel on the Calgary Declaration in 1997. David Chudnovsky, BC president, TDF president, also an NDP MLA here in this house in 2005 to 2009. Jenny Sims, a former BCTF and NDP MP currently. Irene Lazinger, another BCTF president, who was on stage with the BC NDP leadership during the recent convention. And our current president, Susan Lambert, of the BCTF president, donated money of $1,500 or $1,150 to the BC NDP. You see a pattern, Madam Speaker? And it's one I think that is challenging. And I wonder, because as what we should be talking about, and the member from Victoria Beacon Hill said it very well, we should be talking about how we're improving education in the province, what we need to do to try and help out our students. But it's unfortunate that we have this challenge and this relationship that has gone on now for more than 40 years. And I read in recent press articles that they've come to the realization too that this is a real challenge going forward. So the question is, what is it that Bill 22 is trying to solve? How is it we're trying to get there? For example, the BCTF have come out and claimed that there are over 12,000 overcrowded classes in British Columbia. 12,000 overcrowded classes. And so you know that gets out in the press, and the press print it. And the question is, out of the 65,000 classes that we have in the province of British Columbia, fewer than 1,500 have more than 31 students. And fewer than 600 have more than 33, and almost all of those are band, choir, and theater. Those are the facts. That's the reality. And I kind of wonder why this information is being put out there to the public. I mean, we're talking about an education system. Surely the education and the people talking about the education system should be accurate in terms of the facts and figures that they use. They claim that there are 700 fewer special needs teachers, when in fact 2,100 additional special needs teaching assistants are in the classroom today. But the one that I think is particularly interesting is the member from Victoria Beacon Hill said, we shouldn't be picking a fight with teachers. This should be about educating. This is about trying to improve funding in the classroom for our students. So perhaps it's worth going through exactly what's on the table from the BCTF. So leave provisions, 118 million. Preparation time, 711 million. Benefits, 295 million. Salary, 765 million. Salary grid reductions, 169 million. Over $2 billion that's on the table. And in all of those things, I didn't see what the member had talked about in terms about smaller class sizes. So, Madam Speaker, When you're facing tough economic times, as we are, and you're trying to do the best you can, without seeing a situation where you're raising taxes, without being in a situation where you're being fiscally irresponsible, sometimes you do have to go to a net zero mandate. And a net zero mandate isn't designed to try to punish anybody or single anybody out. It's designed to try to help government get through a tough time where they cannot raise taxes, where revenues are tight, and you need to get back to a balanced budget. And you only need to look at Ontario and what the Drummond Report has suggested that they're going to have to do to their education system to realize that if you are fiscally irresponsible, there are consequences eventually. And I don't want to see those sort of things have to happen to our education system. I know, and the teachers I've talked to, that they care deeply about their students and about their job. And I also know that they're very, very frustrated with us, with the whole system, and to many extent, I don't blame them. But we're not in a position to be able to go where the BCTF would like it to go. But it's, you know, we have a tool, an interesting tool in this legislature, in legislation, I should say, in the province of British Columbia. And it was used effectively around the HST, and it's called doing a petition. You get 10% of the people all around the province to sign the petition, you can actually go to a referendum. And, you know, that's a tool that, you know, maybe the BCTF should consider. If they want to see the type of tax increases that they'd like to see for education, take it to the people. Ask them directly. We have that tool to be able to allow for the direct input and for direct democracy. Now, I'm not a fan of direct democracy, but the tool is there. It was put in the 1990s. Maybe it's something that should be considered if they feel that through our net zero mandate we're not doing the right thing. Madam Speaker, I want to close just by talking a little bit about the kids. The job action that's gone on for 7 months has had a negative impact. It has. And I know there's been lots of teachers that have tried to find ways to keep parents in touch, to try to find ways to make things work, but the reality is there has been an impact. I know, and I've heard from many of the administration that they're burnt out, having the stress of the extra workload and because of withdrawal of services and stuff are creating challenges. And this cannot go on forever. And unfortunately, when you have a net zero mandate and you're in a situation where you must try to negotiate under that, you can put a lot of things on the table, but you have to realize it has to be within that, because it, like I said earlier, it would be irresponsible to the rest of our public sector employees to do anything other than that. So I had a meeting with some a teacher representative from my area. Had that meeting, we talked about net zero, and she said, you know, we could perhaps get to net zero. But I'm just wondering why that has never been able to make it through in terms of the negotiations of the BCTF. And so as this carries on, I hope, Madam Speaker, that we will see an end to job action soon. I hope that this bill will come through the House and that we'll be in a situation where we have a cooling off period, where we have the ability to be able to have this mediation and some discussions around that. And ultimately, you know, I have a real passion on education. I would like to see some significant changes in the education system. I think there's great opportunity to see improvements, but we can't do it by trying to bankrupt the province and put us in a situation where we can't provide properly going forward. It just can't happen. And I'm sorry about it. I wish there was a difference. I wish there was a different way. But the reality, fiscal reality is what it is. So, Madam Speaker, I'm appreciative of having the opportunity to say a few words on this bill, and I very much look forward to listening to the rest of the debate, because, as I said, education is critical, and the teachers are an enormous part of any success that we have in our education system. And so maybe I'll just close by thanking them for what they've done over the years in terms of providing the education and the quality education and the improvements that we have seen over the last decade and beyond. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I thank the member and recognise the member for North Island.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I rise to speak on Bill 22, and I'd like to start my remarks by putting it into a little bit of context by reading a letter that I've received from a teacher. I'd like to quote it. Currently, I am teaching 4 different classes with the following composition. Socials 11 with 33 students and 1